Hey guys, it's Ricer Boy, and today we're going to hit you with some more of that Focus ST modification content, because today we're going to give it a full intake, along with the new transmission mount, the passenger side engine mount, and a Symposer delete, which is really going to change the sound and driving profile of this car. And of course, since we're all about efficiency here, we're also going to take care of an oil change, because maintenance is important with a turbo car. Now, if you have been keeping up with the channel, you may be wondering why we're switching to a full cold air intake setup, because we did in fact put a green filter drop-in filter in the stock air box right there. And what's interesting about these cars is if you know anything about how their intake setups work, there's three kinds of intakes you could do. You could change the filter that goes into the stock air box, you can get a half intake that basically takes care of that flex pipe right there, or you could do what we're doing, which is taking a full intake that goes all the way to the back of the engine there, and sounds the best in my personal opinion. Another thing that Ford did with this car, which is pretty infamous, is that they also added what they called a sound Symposer, which is a tube that comes from the intake that pipes sound into the interior to supposedly improve the engine sound of the car with it being stock. However, when it comes to this Symposer, it's very on or off, which is very annoying when you're driving the car normally. So we're going to be removing that just so that way we can get pure natural engine noise from that new intake that we're putting in. And the intake in question is this AF Dynamic cold air intake setup, which is a pure eBay brand. However, what is good is that unlike some of the bigger brand intakes, this is a full intake that goes throughout the entire system, so it should give us the best sound. And honestly, when it comes to my experience with eBay intakes, it is by far the best value you can find out there. Because ultimately, when it comes to intakes, they're literally just pipes. The only thing that you really need to spend money on is money on a good filter. Because as long as the pipes can stay together well and you have good couplings on them, you really don't need to worry about spending $500 or even less than that on an intake when you can find perfectly good ones out there for under the $100 range, and for that one specifically, $150. And that is why in this box over here, we have an AEM dry flow filter, which is the best filter you can buy in my opinion, along with one new engine mount, another new engine mount, and the Symposer delete plate. The first thing that we're taking care of here is the motor mount, which is why we have that jack holding a wood block underneath the car. Because especially when you're working with motor mounts, you want to have your motor supported, so that way when you take out one of them, the engine will stay in the same location, so that way you can put in the other one without having to do any extra work. So that passenger side is a breeze to take out. Just 3 bolts on one side and 2 on the other. There it is. Okay, so the new one's on the left, the old one's on the right.
Under spirited driving, the engine would rock back and forth during a shift, and it was very disconcerting. So I thought about going to solid mounts, but decided I wanted to keep it livable as a daily driver. And then I realized there was a technical service bulletin that wasn't done on this car. So I just did the TSB myself.
So this mount is from a 2014 and 2017 car?
Well, it's superseded as a replacement for the 2013s. So really this mount is for my car, but since mine was one of the early builds, it didn't get this mount.
Now, conveniently enough, while we're in this location, it actually makes sense to take off the Symposer. Because if you see that little pipe down there attached to the intake manifold, that is where you get all of that artificial engine sound pumped in. Don't need that pipe. And that's our plastic crap battery tray. Now that little lunch tray looking thing is the engine mount that we're going to be replacing. So now we're going to show you how to do that. So now with all those pipes out of the way, we're going to do the Symposer delete first. And that is the plastic valve that you see right there. So that's what the Symposer looks like. It's a little bit of oil on it, but completely normal. This kit, you have a plastic plug and then you have a metal thing with a rubber ring on it. Okay, so the plastic plug goes into the cowl.
I'm going to get some Teflon tape for this.
back there we were using some Teflon tape in order to seal the plug that goes in the middle of the block-off plate. Alright, so now that the center plug is Teflon taped and screwed in, we get the entire bracket, use the stock screws to screw it back in. So now with the rubber ring facing inwards, that is the Composer delete plate put in. So now we're focusing on the driver's side mount, and we just got the center bolt out of it. So this mount is also pretty easy because it only requires 5 bolts. There's 2 on the front, 2 on the back, and then 1 in the middle. Also, it's important to note that for this mount we have the jack underneath the transmission because safety first. And another thing that I forgot to mention is that for putting in this mount on this side, it's 80 Newton meters of torque for the bolts that go onto the engine and 90 for the 2 that go off of it. Simon managed to catch a salamander. So now we're torquing down the center bolt to 120 foot-pounds. Alrighty, so with everything we've already done for today, the last thing to do is to take care of that intake and replace it with our new AF Dynamic one. Even comes with a sticker. One thing I can say is that with this even being an eBay setup, the packaging is surprisingly good. Everything is nicely labeled and has nice pictures on it, includes an instruction manual and a heat shield. So of course the first pipe to go on is the pipe that comes from the turbo and goes up to the top of the engine. Okay, so that's interesting. There's one bolt that's normal that comes out of mounting the old intake to the valve cover. Then there's that weird plastic thing that also turns out to be a bolt, where the breather hose disconnected. There it is. And now you get the plastic right angle piece that attaches to the breather hose, and you put that in your new intake.
This is what I get for getting an eBay intake.
So now with the big pipe on, we just need to put the air temperature and pressure sensor into the little pipe, and then install the battery cover and the battery. So as you can see, the battery tray is back where it's supposed to be, and the intake is now mounted up in its new position. So it's a little bit later now, and the ST now has a fresh oil change, and is of course back down on the ground. And now we can finally finish up all the intake stuff. So it's the day after the install, and now this is finally my first ride-along in the newly modified ST. And one thing I can say is I can already sense how much better the new motor mounts are. Oh, those noises are so cool. The drop-in filter is disappointing compared to this. Also, if you didn't already know, we got the custom Photoshop splash screen right there. This car is so much better without the Composer. I could definitely say that I like the sound of this car a lot better without the Composer, because the Composer just sounded kind of fake and contrived, but now you just get all of the nice whooshy boosty noises without any obtrusion from artificial sound valves. Alright everyone, so there was a cop that flashed us in the other lane, so we're gonna head home now and just hope that he's not on our tail, but he didn't do a U-turn, so I'm pretty sure he's just warning us. So there you go everybody. AF Dynamic Intake, CFM Composer Delete Kit, and new ST motor mounts, all now on the Focus ST. and it rips. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks for watching, and peace out.